We are thrilled that so many of you are joining us today, that so many of you are interested in climate action, interested in sustainability. We are excited to share with you a whole bunch of resources. So I will say, get your phone ready because we have a lot of QR codes to scan within this slide deck. Quick introduction. My name is Jen Graham. I'm the Senior Associate Director within the MIT Sloan Sustainability Initiative. I wear many hats on the team. I oversee all of our operations, and I also oversee all of our student engagement. So that includes conversations with prospectives and admitted students like yourself, engaging with students once you are here and on campus. And then I also engage with our alumni population. So we make sure that we engage with you post Sloan. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jason to kick off today's presentation.
Hi, everyone. So glad to see such a good number here today. As Jen said, I teach here at Sloan in some of our flagship courses that you'll hear about later and direct the sustainability initiative here. So first, I want to just level set and kind of define terms about how we think about sustainability here at the Sloan School, and the kind of people that we've brought together to think about these topics. This is our team. We have two co-faculty directors, John Sturman in System Dynamics, Roberto Rigobon in Applied Economics, and myself coming from a work and organizations background. So that reflects the interdisciplinary nature of our team and of the topic of sustainability. We have a fantastic team of people working on the programming for students led by Jen Graham. And we also have major research projects going on under the umbrella of the Sustainability Initiative that are in the impact investing, systemic investing, and ESG finance space that Florian and Idungasit lead. So when we talk about sustainability, the first thing is that that comes to everyone's mind is about the environment and climate action. I think one of the things that we try to do is we give students a strong grounding in thinking about climate, but we try to avoid what we sometimes call climate myopia, which is kind of or climate tunnel vision of sort of too narrowly being focused on that issue and not understanding it in a larger context. So the first piece of that context is to understand that climate change is one arena in which humans are exceeding the planetary boundaries, the safe operating space for humanity that have been defined by ecological scientists from around the world. And there are other domains where we are also overstepping the boundaries of the planet's support systems, unfortunately. Biosphere integrity, which means the genetic biodiversity, the functional integrity of ecosystems, novel entities, meaning chemical pollution, radioactive materials, other things that we put out into the environment that are toxic, biogeochemical flows, meaning phosphorus and nitrogen from fertilizer. And so there's a whole arena of environmental issues that we have to manage. And there are some times where we might try to pursue a solution on one, like well, maybe we could do biofuels to have lower carbon fuels, but then we find that it has these ripple effects on land use and biogeochemical water flows and everything else. So part of taking a systems perspective, which is really what the distinctive approach is at MIT, is understanding the larger context. And that larger context of environmental strain is itself only one piece of the puzzle, because the reason that we have grown our industrial economy and industrial agriculture to the point where we are in this challenge is that we have been very successfully lifting people up out of poverty. And while this picture suggests that we need to shrink, it's also the case there's a lot of people who still need to grow. So Jen, if we go to the next slide, Kate Rayworth put these planetary boundaries on a picture that also includes the inner circle here, which is the social foundations. And there are many people in the world who are still falling short of those social foundations. So the red bar here next to food reflects that there's about 1 billion people in the world who are chronically hungry and food insecure. In water, a third of people, about 3 billion people don't have improved sanitation. About 1 billion don't have clean, safe drinking water. And so we're from the standpoint of this point of view, we need to grow. And so the paradox of sustainability is how do we simultaneously grow and shrink? And this picture kind of gives you a menu of worthwhile problems to solve using the tools of business, which is what we try to do here at the Sloan School, so that we can reach toward a positive view of what a sustainable future might look like. On the next slide, which, as Kate Rayworth uses the metaphor of the donut, which is the best possible metaphor for a good society, unless you're a savory person and prefer bagels. But the idea of how can we create a safe and just space for humanity is how we think about this. And the menu of issues here is a menu of great innovation challenges for you to work on during your time in business school. Um, so then how do we tackle those big social environmental issues in a business school context? Well, we have to now situate, well, within this big set of environmental and social issues, how do we think about the role of organizations, of businesses? So if we go to the next slide, when we think about sustainability, we have to think about it in a way that is relevant to business leaders who are trying to take action on these issues. So we can keep going. And so what we do is we define sustainability in terms of this promise framework. And this is something that Roberto Rigobon and I developed originally. And so the environmental issues, the E, and the societal injustice issues that were on the inside of the donut, the S, are part of a larger embedded system that's reflected by these concentric circles. And our ability to take action on those social environmental issues depends on a few things. It depends on the next layer, which is institutions and politics, meaning public policy, certification systems, and other rules of the game that orient our attention and our energies toward sustainability. The markets and economy, the design of market systems and the incentives, and the changing preferences and interests of investors and consumers. And then our organizations, our companies, our investment firms sit within that circle. So we are subject to the pressures of new changing policy in the European Union and in California and so on. But of course, all of the noise that we're seeing in the political space around these topics. But our organizations are also made up of people in relationship with each other who, through our leadership, through being purpose-driven, principle-guided leaders, we have the ability to shape our organizations, to shape the markets and the policies that we're part of. And that's what we do here at Sloan School is we work to build a community of people who are situationally aware of what the science tells us about the E and the S, about what our political and economic awareness tell us about the I and the M, but also who are leaders capable of really mobilizing change inside and beyond organizations. So if we keep going, we define our mission statement here for the Sustainability Initiative as providing the best education, applying academic rigor to real-world problems, and empowering leaders to act professionally, personally, and collectively so that humans and nature can thrive for generations to come. And that professionally, personally, and collectively, you can see that on the promise framework, right? We want you to think about yourselves as individual citizens as well as leaders in organizations, thinking holistically about the sustainability challenges that we face. So we've got great research projects and we're working to try to improve and shape the field, and we're always putting out publications and engaging with industry and investors around that thought leadership and new ideas and tools. But this initiative started and always has as its core a set of educational activities and student engagement activities. And under Jen's capable leadership, that has been getting deeper and stronger over time. And so I want to hand it over to her to share more about what the student experience looks like.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Jason. So embedding sustainability into your MIT Sloan experience. So I am going to share with you a whole bunch of different resources that will be available to you as a MIT Sloan student. First, we'll talk about some educational opportunities inside and outside the classroom, and then we're going to focus on some additional resources that really hone in on your career pathing strategy. So how can you develop a network while you're here? How can we start to think about a summer internship or a full-time career search? So as we talk about sustainability education, we wanted to share with you sort of our flagship offering in the educational space, and that is our sustainability certificate. So as an MIT Sloan student, you'll have the opportunity to pursue one of a variety of different certificates. Our team oversees the sustainability one. This has been around since 2010. We were actually the first certificate offered at MIT Sloan. And because we've been around for quite a bit, we've been able to develop a really phenomenal ecosystem of alumni in this space that we very frequently tap into for various programming, for recruiting needs, for networking purposes. And so we really developed a great cohort of alumni that we know are very strong, and we hope to continue that moving forward. Each year, we graduate about 100 students within our sustainability certificate cohort. And one distinguishing factor between the sustainability certificate compared to some of the other certificates that you might explore is that we give you the ability to explore courses from across MIT. So we want you to develop a deep knowledge in your area of expertise, and we really leverage courses that are being offered across the Institute. So what does it mean to pursue the sustainability certificate? Simply said, you have to complete 3 required courses and then a few approved electives. So here we've highlighted the 3 required courses. Our team teaches 2 out of the 3. I'm just going to share very high level information about each one of these classes. Once you are admitted to MIT and once you're going through orientation, you'll learn much more about these courses, how to register for them. But just very high level, the first required course is our introduction to system dynamics. So system dynamics is the concept of systems thinking, which is how to approach very complex challenges, very applicable to solving the climate challenge. So we believe that this is a key foundational course as you're heading into your varied career paths in sustainability. The second course is our business strategies for a sustainable future. Jason's going to share a little bit more about that class in just a moment. And then lastly is our action learning lab, which is Sustainable Business Lab, or SLab, which again, in a few slides, I'll share a little bit more information about. As I also mentioned, you will have to complete a couple of approved electives as part of the sustainability certificate. The QR code on your screen will actually bring you to our website where you can learn more about the certificate overall, but you can also take a deep dive to see what sort of courses we pre-approve as part of the certificate. So here you'll be able to see the wide variety of different science-based courses, engineering-based courses, courses being offered through the Department of Urban Studies and Planning, as well as MIT Sloan courses that have a foundational element of climate or sustainability in its curriculum. This is, I think, a really great opportunity to hone in on a specific area and really set yourself apart in terms of learning those key skills in terms of that you can apply to your full-time or internship career search. So with that, Jason, I will invite you to talk a little bit more about your flagship course.
So business strategies for a sustainable future. We just renamed this course recently, and John Sturman, who co-teaches me, said, Jason, you do realize that our acronym is going to be BS. And then we realized that that was actually a feature because so many corporate sustainability strategies are some combination of BS and science fiction. And so what we say is that we take the BS and the SF out of corporate sustainability strategy. But what we do in this course is that we develop that systems perspective on sustainability. We start with the science and the big picture of the ecological boundaries that we are overshooting that we hinted at earlier, and the social foundations, the human rights violations and social inequities that are the kind of problem space that we're in. And we look at how Then we kind of work our way into the promise framework and talk about what are the policies and changes in market expectations that are shifting the context for business. And then we look at how do you craft a business strategy that can simultaneously be profitable and successful while taking on these challenges in a meaningful way. And that means understanding where to focus your attention, which issues are most significant and material and worthwhile for a focus of attention, on setting goals, on measurement and quantification and baselining, and then the various strategies for engaging the organization to make real change in products, in supply chains, in processes, in employment practices, so that we can create the sustainable companies of the future. And it provides a nice introduction to a few of the major themes in sustainability that you can then pursue in greater depth in some of the subsequent electives.
Great, thanks, Jason. So the other flagship course that I mentioned is S-Lab, our Sustainable Business Lab. And this is a course where students will be put on project teams and then matched with an organization to solve a sustainability challenge over the course of the semester. So our team spends the fall actually sourcing these opportunities. We make sure that we develop deep relationships with alumni, as I mentioned, with employers, with companies that have seen the value of partnering with us in S-Lab. And we invite these companies to often re-engage year after year. So what we do is we'll work with the organization to scope down the project. And then students will be able to hear a quick pitch from the organization, from the host during the first class session, and then bid on which project they'd like to be a part of. We have about 20 projects each year. And then in addition to working on said project, you will come to class and you'll also be learning more about some of these sustainability concepts that you can directly apply to your project. On top of that, we often invite some guest speakers to class. And as you can see here, we had a very exciting guest speaker back in 2023. We had former New England Patriots captain Devin McCourty talk about restorative justice. That was such a highlight of our class that particular year. So it's just a really great opportunity to engage with folks who are very passionate in this space. Here's just a quick high-level list of example recent projects. So you'll be able to recognize a few of the logos on the screen here. Boston Red Sox is a recurring host of ours, same with Fidelity Investments. But you'll see the diversity in terms of the industries, the types of projects that we source for this class, because we know that our cohort of students are looking for a variety of different opportunities. They're looking for that experiential learning opportunity that they can highlight on a resume and apply to their career search. So we really take that into account as we're sourcing projects in the fall. What we actually do is we'll survey our cohort each year when they graduate, and we'll identify where they're headed full-time in terms of industry, in terms of functional area, and we'll use that data to strategically source projects for the following year in S-Lab. So if we want to pivot from sort of the academic educational offerings and talk more about how you can integrate education into other areas of your experience here at MIT Sloan, I'm first going to talk about co-curricular programming. So our team hosts many events throughout the academic year. This is a really great way to engage with our team as you're going through the core curriculum in your first semester. We often will invite guest speakers to come to campus almost on a weekly basis to talk about their area of expertise in sustainability. This is called our Sustainability Lunch Series. All of our events, all of our lunch series are actually hybrid. So as a perspective, you are welcome to join any of our virtual events, or you can check out some previously recorded events on our YouTube channel. In addition to our guest speakers, we'll often host some informal and formal networking events, some opportunities for the cohort to engage with one another, to engage one-on-one with faculty. And this has been a really great way to embed sustainability into your experience outside of the classroom. Another very valuable resource that I often advocate students take advantage of are our student clubs. So we have really great relationships with student clubs that are focused on sustainability topics. Clubs like our Impact Investing Club, like our Food and Agriculture Club, like our Water Club. And compared to some of our peer schools, you'll see that we don't have just one sustainability club. We actually have a variety of different specialized sustainability related clubs, which I think is really another reason that MIT Sloan stands out in terms of this MBA and business school landscape, because again, you can connect with folks who have a deep interest and a deep understanding and expertise in said area. So what we do is we'll partner with clubs on various events throughout the year. We'll often help elevate other programs that they're hosting. We make good connections with the presidents each year, and we also create space so that they can all connect with one another, which isn't something that naturally happens. So we want to make sure that the students who are leading these clubs are really participating in that collective networking as well. In addition to the clubs, MIT Sloan also offers several conferences and competitions. We are often engaged with the conference or competition organizers. Similar to the clubs, we will either be a sponsor or help host some additional programs or participate in the conference or competition. One that I just want to highlight that is upcoming is our MIT Sustainability Summit. It's happening on Saturday, May 2nd here on campus. Every year, our summit has a theme. This year's theme is all about climate resilience. We have an amazing program lined up. So if you're in the Boston area, if you want to come to campus and see firsthand some of the work that our students have done to pull together a really great program, the QR code is up on the screen. If you can't join us in person, I'll share with you some additional communications opportunities in a couple slides, but you'll be able to watch some recordings after the conference. Another great resource that I just want to highlight are our study tours and treks. So students have the opportunity to self-organize some study tours or some treks, either through the student clubs, either part of the MBA program. And oftentimes there are some very exciting treks and tours that are relevant to climate and sustainability. For example, I just came back from an MBA study tour to the Nordics, where we visited companies that are doing some really amazing work in corporate sustainability. We were able to tour some cities that really prioritize sustainability. The whole region really does. So it was a really fantastic way to, again, embed those sustainability concepts into your business experience outside the classroom. Some of the other treks that are organized, so for example, the Food and Ag Club organized a trek back in January to California to visit various farms and vineyards and better understand from an agricultural landscape some of the challenges that farmers and vineyard owners are facing due to climate change. So these are all great opportunities that I highly recommend you take advantage of. So if we pivot from sort of this educational networking, community building concept and pivot into career resources, what are some of the ways that we help support students in their career journey? I just want to highlight here, there's another QR code on your screen that brings you to our 2024 internship roundup report. As a 2-year MBA student, the summer internship is a really key part to either pivoting into a sustainability career search or enhancing your own career journey in whatever space you're considering. So I'm going to share with you in just a moment a couple of internship programs that we help to oversee that have been phenomenally successful. We've developed some really great partnerships with organizations that will come back to campus to hire our MBA students. So the two programs that we oversee, the first one is our Sustainability Initiative Internship Program. This is where our team will work with the Career Development Office to source high caliber, sustainability-oriented internships for MBA students. As I mentioned before, we have developed these really great connections with alumni, with employers, and we invite them to post their opportunities during the spring semester. We also provide a subsidy toward the internship because we find that some of these organizations cannot offer a competitive compensation for an MIT Sloan student. So this just helps them to hire phenomenal Sloanies over the course of the summer, and it's been a very successful program. The other internship program we oversee is called the Sloan Impact Fund. This is where we provide additional funding to students who are looking for impact-oriented summer internships. So the student will find their own opportunity and then apply for additional funding through this program. This also has been phenomenally successful. Last year, between the two programs, we actually were able to fund 28 internships, which was the most that we had seen. And if you want to learn more about those specific internship opportunities, again, I highly recommend checking out our internship roundup report from the previous slide. One other resource that I'm very excited about that I wanted to share with you all is called our Streams of Study. So our team has been working very hard to develop some very effective resources in specific areas of sustainability that our students are clued into. So the first one that we decided to launch was climate tech. The QR code on the screen will bring you to the resource. This resource is meant to be your first stop in considering a career path in climate tech. So as an MIT Sloan student, you'll be able to see all of the different classes you should be taking advantage of, all of the conferences, case competitions, clubs, podcasts, job boards, impact stories. But one piece of this resource that I think is particularly helpful are the internship and full-time employment examples. So you can see where students have landed either for a summer internship or a full-time job post-graduation in the area of climate tech. So you'll see that students go into VC, some start their own climate tech venture, or we have several students who will join startups in this space. So this is just a very exciting new resource. We're very excited to enhance this and offer some streams of study in some other focus areas in the coming months. So this is just to give you sort of a taste of what's to come from our team. And then the last thing that I wanted to plug is another virtual event that's coming up on May 16th. So the MIT Sloan Sustainability Initiative is part of a larger cohort of business schools that have climate and sustainability programs called Climate Cap. This is a really phenomenal network of peer schools, and they've pulled together a really great program, all about integrating climate into your MBA. So it's a little more broad in terms of how to think about a climate career path as you're pursuing an MBA, but you'll see representation from all of the schools here. So if you're interested in joining, highly recommend, and again, the QR code is on the screen here. So we've given you a lot of information. We do not expect you to remember everything, even 5 minutes after this webinar. So how can you stay connected? 2 more QR codes, and I promise these are the last 2. We invite you to follow us on social media and to sign up for our weekly newsletter. We send a weekly newsletter to students, but we invite prospectives to join the listserv. And then same with social media, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram, we're on Threads. And so we highly encourage you to engage with us on there. We post constantly. And so this is a great way to stay up to date on everything that's going on in the initiative. And with that, we welcome the opportunity to answer any of your questions.
So there's been quite a few questions that have flowed through the Q&A feature on Zoom. So I encourage you to look at the answered questions there. You can see where we've been typing some answers in over the Zoom tool. There's a couple things that we had flagged for answering live because they're just easier to kind of talk through. And so maybe we can go through a couple of those and then see what else is coming up. So one couple of questions that I wanted to address verbally, which have to do with student opportunities for participating in research. Because I mentioned earlier that the Sustainability Initiative has a couple of major research projects under our umbrella. I would say that Sloan is a great place for students to get involved in not just kind of knowledge consumption and application, but knowledge production. Um, it takes and it takes a couple different forms. So one is that is students will do independent studies where they will pursue a line of inquiry that's very much something that they're interested in, that they can do pretty autonomously, but with faculty advising and support and coaching. And an independent study can end up producing a really nice white paper or pieces that then can help to build the students' thought leadership on social media. The independent study, if it's sustainability focused, then it's at a certain level of seriousness. We will count it as an elective toward the sustainability certificate. Research assistantships are more of something where a faculty has a line of research that they're trying to do, and they would like student talent to help. So for example, I have a stream of research on systemic investing, which is how to use capital across asset classes, including philanthropy, to drive systems change on big social environmental issues. I have a research team of 7 people, of whom 4 of them are MBA students in various different capacities, either as a research assistant or doing an independent study or a thesis. And so it is quite common for students to get involved in that kind of work. I would say that faculty are pretty selective about who we kind of bring onto those research teams, because we do have PhD students and postdocs and others available. But MBA students can play a really critical role in producing things, particularly that are kind of more practitioner facing as the end publication, as opposed to journal articles that PhD students are better trained for. So that answers that question. There's another question that came up was about AI and marketing technology and where is that getting integrated into things. So first off, I'll just say at the kind of classroom and pedagogy level, each faculty member is approaching the AI use in the classroom and in the context a little differently. For the courses that I'm involved in teaching, we have an AI policy that allows students to use AI in their work as long as they are really transparent and careful about documenting how they did, and that they're correcting for the various failures and hallucinations that the AI might introduce. But we're finding that collaboration between a student and AI can produce some really cool outputs. The specifically, and then I would say in other parts of Sloan, like in the analytics area, in the marketing area, there's very extensive use of a very extensive exploration of machine learning tools, and now increasingly, more LLM and agentic AI type approaches. But you'd want to look at sort of the course catalog and how that material and those approaches are starting to get incorporated. Of course, in the Sustainability Initiative, we're obsessed with the question of the extensive energy use and water consumption and other environmental impacts of AI. And how do we kind of rein that in? There's a major project on that topic across MIT. We had one graduate student, to go back to the research topic, Jen Turlick this year, who's doing her master's thesis on this question of when can AI be used to solve sustainability problems, but then also what sustainability problems is AI creating? and how do we think about the creation of net positive AI systems. So it is, and she actually as a student organized a short course on that topic in the winter with hundreds of participants. So it is a very live topic of inquiry here at Sloan.
Can I also add one thing, Jason? This is hot off the press. I learned this morning. So we are closely affiliated with the MIT Climate Policy Center, which oversees another research project called the Climate Pathways Project, which focuses on the tool En-ROADS to educate policymakers, to educate students, to educate folks all about the impact of climate and how policy can play a role in that. And they're going to be offering a webinar in May, which is going to specifically look at the topic of AI. Can AI be used as a tool to solve climate change, or is it, creating a bigger problem that we'll eventually have to solve? So we can share some of those details maybe with anybody that has signed up for this webinar after this session.
Great, thank you. There's a few, the volume of the questions has been fantastic. Maybe more than we can address. I did notice, Catherine, you had a couple that flagged that you wanted to answer live, or you were going to ask us to answer those live.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. One that is at the top is asking, is there any way for folks who are interested in finance, consulting, and technology and may not have their main focus on sustainability still take classes to help bring and bridge sustainability into those areas?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
When we think about careers in this space, our colleague Katie Cross at Duke developed this sort of 2x2 matrix that we found to be very useful, which is that we think about the roles that people go into as being traditional and sustainability oriented roles inside traditional and sustainability oriented organizations. And so there's a quadrant of that 2x2, which is I'm going into a traditional role in a traditional company. And what you just described is the plurality of any students coming out of any business school, including Sloan, which is going into some combination of consulting, technology, and finance. But you're bringing a sustainability lens to your work. Other people might pursue sustainability-oriented roles inside traditional companies. They're looking for that VP of sustainability or chief sustainability officer type role, where they're trying to galvanize those efforts inside a company. And another batch, which I think is a great sweet spot for Sloan students in particular, is where you're bringing a traditional MBA skill set to a sustainability-oriented organization, meaning you're growing some cool climate tech startup that's developed a new way of producing cement or using AI to drive climate resilience, and you're bringing a business development or an operations or supply chain or financial skill set to those growth enterprises. All of the above, we love to see our graduates go and do. And in fact, the 650 plus alumni that Jen mentioned earlier, the alumni ecosystem, they're spread nicely across that picture. And that ecosystem becomes really powerful because now the person who's going to sell that climate resilience technology solution has someone in their certificate cohort who might be the VP of sustainability of a company, who can then go engage with someone who is in a mainline operating role, who could help them to adopt and apply those technologies. And in the consulting space in particular, what we've seen is that the background people gain from an MBA plus sustainability certificate here gives them a chance to get onto the sustainability related projects within their portfolio of consulting projects that they're interested in. In the tech space, we've seen people go into do some really exciting things in the tech arena. I'm thinking about Ruben Lozada, who at Google became the product manager for Google Maps, but then brought his sustainability lens to that space and said, "Wait, we can route people toward greener driving routes," and that has rerouted people to the tune of the equivalent of thousands of cars being taken off the road. So we see people being able to apply these skill sets in a variety of different arenas.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Another question that kind of goes into that as well is, how, as a student, if you're interested in sustainability and entrepreneurship, I know you've talked a little bit about startups, but how do you bridge those resources, and maybe share some more startup examples?
Yeah. Do you want me to start, Jason, and then you
Sure.
can jump in?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Excellent question. So we have very close relationships with a variety of different departments across MIT. One that comes to mind in terms of climate tech, in terms of entrepreneurship, is the Martin Trust Center. We have some phenomenal colleagues who work over there, who teach out of the Trust Center. And so we not only include those classes as part of the sustainability certificate, but we both cross promote various programs that are being offered by both teams. We also have collaborated quite a bit in terms of career engagement. So as I'm working with students who are focused on sustainability, looping in my colleagues on the climate tech or entrepreneurship side, if I think there's a fit and need to also tap into that network. In terms of some success stories, I mean, maybe Jason, he has a very good memory. So maybe you have some like top of mind that you want to share.
Yeah, I mean,
Past few years.
the entrepreneurial ecosystem out of Sloan is quite robust. I would say at this intersection point, one of the key sort of jewels in in the crown here is something called the Climate and Energy Ventures. It's a course taught by Todd Hines and Frank O'Sullivan and Libby Wayman, all three of whom are climate tech entrepreneurs and investors. And that class, the way it works is that it pulls together, it's sort of, they assemble the class because people apply to take it. And it's two parts business students, two parts technology people coming out of the labs, and one part systems and policy people coming out of our, or, urban studies and planning or the Harvard Kennedy School. And then they form teams with roughly that configuration to develop and launch new company ideas. And there's been something in the order of 40 or 50 companies that have been started out of
I think it's over 60.
over 60
Mhm.
companies that are
Yeah.
out of the Climate Energy Ventures course. A huge array of different things, some working on what are called hard to decarbonize sectors like steel, cement, construction materials, some that are in the electricity and energy management, the renewable energy space. So that is, companies that are coming out of that course will then end up competing in the 100K competition. They might then go through the Delta V accelerator, and then they might get investment from the variety of different vehicles and companies that are in the broader orbit around MIT. So that I think is a very vibrant arena of activity. And the Climate Tech Streams of Study resource that Jen shared earlier, in which I pasted into the Q&A in response to one of these questions, points to a lot of those things. It's not only in climate tech that we see new ventures being started. There's a number of folks who have gone off to start food and ag related companies. That's another sort of strong arena, as well as in apparel and circular economy. I'm thinking about Adam Siegel, who started Recurate, which is a tool for apparel brands to create a returns and resale and circularity mechanism. So it's a pretty slow, yeah, as you can imagine, MIT is an innovation hotbed. So there's a lot of startup activity in and around the school. And we tried to, through that alliance that Jen described between the Sustainable Initiative and the Trust Center, we try to be supportive of entrepreneurs. I will say that, it is the case that some people come here wanting to start a company and then they are ready to go entrepreneurs, and are sort of ready to hack through the jungle of entrepreneurship. A lot of students want to follow more what we call the dirt road, which is joining a company that is in that growth phase, using Crunchbase or PitchBook as a job board, so that when a company gets its Series A and they want to hire a team, you're sort of ready to jump in. And the course that I teach, Innovating for Impact, is really aimed at that use case, which I think is a sweet spot for a lot of MBA level students.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. So many resources. I think you will find, as they mentioned here, when you get here, there will be probably more than you can take advantage of. But there are a lot of fantastic opportunities. One individual had a question on what's kind of up next in the horizon for sustainability. Is there any new focuses around thought leadership around sustainability that you will see evolving over the coming years?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple things I'll just point to. So one is that MIT has something called the MIT Climate Project, which is a university-wide effort to drive and accelerate climate-related innovation. It's organized around missions with a rock star faculty member at the head of each of the missions. The one focused on decarbonizing energy and industry, one on creating resilient cities, and so on. And within each of those, there are new frontier programs that are being incubated to think about what is the cutting edge of important problems to solve in those arenas. Thinking about things like how do we decarbonize data and the AI revolution? How do we transform the way that we heat and cool buildings, which is a major source of both carbon emissions and a requirement for resilient and healthy cities. So those are, kind of engineering school, collaborating with the business school, collaborating with the urban studies and planning folks in the School of Architecture and others to solve those big challenges. That's where, and part of our role at the Sloan School is to figure out how to plug financiers and companies and market-based mechanisms that can help to accelerate those solutions. That's kind of where the ball is going here in terms of MIT. How that's going to be reflected in the student experience. It will be some of these ad hoc kind of research opportunities to jump in and on these types of advanced projects. But of course, also just a general increase in attention and interest that will drive, new courses being created around themes that are, right now exploratory, but are going to become more substantive, like these, data AI, sustainability type questions and things like that. Those I think are some of the leading edge of the field. I think in the sustainable finance arena, we have the work that we're doing in the initiative around systemic investing, around ESG measurement, around shareholder stewardship. There's a bunch of cool findings and emergent sets of practices that are coming out of that work, which we think will have, which are already having an impact on the field, and which we think will have further. And I'll just address just on that last topic around sustainable finance. And in general, this whole space, there's a question that came in about, with the increased anti-ESG sentiment in the US at the moment, how are you seeing this impact our work and our ability to participate in projects? I think it's a fantastic question. It's a key part of our context right now. One thing I'll say is that we as an initiative, as a school, are very clearly staying the course, as is MIT. The underlying science of where we are as a planet doesn't change depending on who's in office or not. I do think that there is, however, a concern about, what is the political backlash that companies, organizations, and investors might face as they work on issues of social equity and environmental sustainability. So what we're seeing is, in the broader field, a lot of what we call green hushing. which is where people are doing sustainability, but they're not talking about it publicly. And that not talking about it publicly also means pulling out of or not signing up for collective action initiatives, right? So you see Vanguard or others pulling out of the Net Zero Asset Managers Initiative would be like a symptom of that type of approach. You know, what does that mean for our ability to do projects, to work with companies? You know, we'll see. We're obviously in an uncertain moment with an uncertain future, and so far, the companies that we work with, which are often repeat engaged hosts, where the project hosts are for internships or for course projects are alumni of ours. There's a lot of trusted relationships and a lot of deep commitment around these things. And so we're seeing folks staying the course, and we've seen that we've been able to have a record number of internships matched for this coming summer. So that's a good sign, I think, in terms of the robustness of this community and its ability to weather the storm.
Thank you so much for that. I think probably a final question, because I know we're getting close to time. Could you all speak to maybe how, you know, the S Lab and other resources at the Sustainability Initiative help people to secure jobs in sustainability after they graduate? I know our Career Development Office provides a lot of support around that too, but I'm sure there's some great networking opportunities with the events going on.
Yes, absolutely. I can chime in here. So I can think of a million examples in terms of stories where students have been able to land either internship or full-time opportunities through these collective offerings, either on the educational front like SLab or on the co-curricular and student engagement front. So SLab, for example, so students are working on small teams. They're working with a host organization for 12 weeks. We've seen students be able to land offers at the end of said project and continue on working with the company either in their second year or post-graduation. On the conference and student competition front, I've seen a lot of success among students who are on the organizing team, especially those who are focused on content or sponsorship, because again, you're developing relationships with companies. You're sharing more about what you're learning here at MIT Sloan, and we've seen several students be able to launch their career or make a pivot because they've been able to develop those networking opportunities, which they might not have seen otherwise. On the event side, we do a fair amount of educational programming, but we always make sure that there's a component, a career component to the conversation. So I always end every session asking our guest speaker about any advice they have for MBA students, if they're willing to connect with students. Even just this past semester, we had a second year MBA be able to land an academic year part-time project with one of our guest speakers after simply attending a session and then reaching out to her on LinkedIn after the fact. Which was great. And then we also host a fair amount of informal and formal networking opportunities. So for example, this week we have a Boston area mixer. So we're inviting students, but we also have a good number of Boston area alumni who are coming. So this is a great chance for us to make those introductions. We already have these relationships with alumni, so we know where they're working, what they're working on, and can make those connections with like-minded students. And then in addition to that, we also have a really phenomenal, robust WhatsApp network of current students. And then we also have one of alumni that just from a career advisor perspective, I've seen how beneficial this platform has been just in terms of reaching out to our alumni network. I've seen just how responsive they are in terms of helping students, especially now in an uncertain job market, and their willingness to make something happen either for a summer internship opportunity or full-time. So as Jason pointed out, you know, we've developed these relationships over years. And so we're really able to leverage that in addition to all of these other opportunities that students have in front of them.